Good afternoon, you guys. Welcome back to Spillin' It. Today I have my parents.
Whoop, whoop.
Hello.
My mom and my dad. This is Dave and this is Renee.
Dave and
Hello.
Renee.
Yes. They've been on the podcast before, but Rachel had this really good idea. She's like, you should interview them together. And I was like, that isn't actually such a good idea.
Great idea.
So that's what we're going to do. I think it would
Awesome.
be fun to start with, how did you guys even meet? I think it would surprise people.
That's a really great question. People would be shocked to know that
Right.
we met at a pajama party.
Exactly.
At drug rehab.
It was a party from drug rehab. Yeah.
Yeah.
You were partying but you had like pop. That's like what you guys
we
were
had
drinking.
pop.
We had
Yes.
pop.
It
And
was
lots of pop.
through drug rehab. There was a male halfway house and then a female halfway house. And obviously, I was in the female.
I wasn't in the male. I
No.
was in the outpatient treatment.
He was in outpatient.
Oh, wait, what
but,
were you in, did you say?
It was a women's halfway house.
Okay.
Mhm.
And halfway house and outpatient. Halfway house means what?
I'm in there living with a bunch of other women.
Got it. And-
Recovering.
Outpatient, you just would go there
I would go
and then
there.
you would leave.
Yes.
Got it. Okay.
Because he had a job. And so, how did you get there, Dave?
How did you get there, Dave?
I just happened to get there.
How does one get into drug
How?
rehab? I mean, we
Well,
heard
you know.
mom's story, but we
Yes.
didn't. You could just say a quick little glimpse.
Well, I went out and got drunk one night, and I thought it'd be a fabulous idea on the way home to throw a giant rock through a window of a JCPenney store.
Yeah.
And then I decided to run to go to my apartment building. I ran too fast and I ran past my apartment building. And then some guys were chasing me down. Little did I know, I didn't know they were, but I turned around and went back to my apartment building, and that's when they caught me going, "What are you doing out here?" And I went, "I was going out for a jog."
At
What time was this at?
Yeah.
It was probably around 2:30.
In the morning?
The
2 a.m.
best time to go, you know.
You know, I'm really, really dedicated to my running. I get up at 2:30 in the morning.
Exactly. It was pretty fun.
And yeah, I'm sure you smelled like you went running too. You just
Yeah.
smelled like a bar.
I did.
So they said, you got caught. So
Then they called the cops. The cops threw me in jail. The only reason I went and I went to the bar was because I ran out of weed.
so you're like, the natural thing
To do is to go get drunk then.
drink.
Yes.
Yep. And so they were like, you're going to outpatient? Is that how
They
it
go,
happened?
"Well, do you want to do time in prison or workhouse, or do you want to do drug treatment?"
Yeah.
I thought about it long and hard, maybe 3 whole seconds.
Yeah.
Said, "I'll do drug treatment."
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what I would do. So you find yourself there and you get invited to a pajama party, and that's where you.
Well, it was somebody was graduating from the men's halfway house.
Okay.
I don't even know who it was.
Yep.
And then you were like, you found mom. How did you guys like actually? Do you remember meeting?
Yeah.
Do you remember what you said?
Hi.
Is that what you said?
Yeah. So, I think
don't
his
even know.
eyes said hi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did not want to go to this pajama party because I thought that was like the most ridiculous thing I ever heard. All
Yeah.
these women going, and I was like, I didn't. Why?
Yeah.
Well, they weren't really wearing pajamas.
Yeah.
Lingerie.
Yes.
Lingerie.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not wearing lingerie no, I'm not doing it. They're like, just come. I was like, okay. I had baby pajamas that zipped all the way up. I was like, this is what I'm wearing. They're like, okay.
Mom was not about to meet any man.
No.
She was like, no men.
No, I was a man hater at that time because of just all the mistrust. And so men, I did vow that I would never get married. I would never have children. And so that wasn't even on my list. I was like, okay, I'll go in my baby pajamas.
And dad was like, who's that
Who's that?
lady?
And what I was wearing was red pair of long johns.
Oh, okay.
So we were kind of matching.
You were a
in
pair.
way.
Yeah, there you go.
There you go, red and blue.
Okay. So then you guys met and got married. Like within how long did you guys?
We went out for like 4 years, 4 years, something like
Oh,
that.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We went for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We,
We
did
had
live together for a while.
Yep.
Sinners.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Yep.
I mean, you met in drug rehab. What?
Right. And yeah, that was, almost 3 going on 4 years.
Yep.
And then we did live together. That ended up in a disaster. So
did.
it was like, because he...
But then I asked her to marry me.
And you said yes.
I did say yes.
What do you mean it was a disaster?
Well, it was a disaster because wasn't that during the time when the wall fell on you at work?
Yes.
Oh.
A wall had
Yeah.
fallen on him. It wrecked parts of his vertebrae in his back.
Yep.
When he came back, he started using weed again, which I just couldn't handle him.
Yeah.
I was like, ugh, you are so selfish.
Yeah.
So it was like,
Did you break up?
and then I broke up, and it
And
wasn't.
then you got married.
Yeah, it wasn't very long that we were broken up. And then
No.
it was like, I said, we had talked and we both realized how much we loved each other. We had
Yeah.
invested almost 4 years.
Right.
And I said, the only way, he's like, I want to marry you. I was like, well,
No.
that's weird. I was like, yeah, no, not unless you go to counseling, which he did go to counseling, one therapy session. And the lady, I didn't go. It was just Dave and this gal, and he came back and said, "Do you know what she said to me?" And I said, "What?" "I'm really selfish." I was like,
Who knew? She said.
I could have told you that.
Yeah.
and I did.
What do you need
so
a counsel for? I could have told you that.
Yep.
Huh?
Yep. So
It's like, this lady doesn't even know me, and she said that.
Yep. It was great. And
Yeah.
then we just
It was
talked
great.
and
It was great.
said, "Yep, let's get married." And
hmm And so you guys got married, and did you guys had kids? You got pregnant pretty quickly with Danielle?
2 years after,
2 years after.
Yeah.
Okay.
because we got married in '83 and she was born in '85.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then from
And
there,
then we had
well,
you about,
Yeah, because we were planning 2 years apart
Yeah.
to have you, and then you came at 19 months.
Yeah.
And we were like, wait, what?
Yeah. So you
I
were
know.
doing like natural family planning things, and then you were like, hi, I'm pregnant. Because me and Danielle are only
Yeah, 19
19 months apart. Yeah.
Yep,
Right.
19 months apart.
We're close in age.
And that was not our plan, but God
Mhm.
had a different plan, because thank goodness we were doing natural family planning and we weren't just like,
rigid
know,
on it. you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
because you wouldn't be here.
I
and that'd be
wouldn't.
so sad.
I know. You guys would be so bored.
We'd be
Telling
so
you what.
bored.
We wouldn't be doing this.
No, you would not.
Exactly.
Born on the 4th of July.
Yep.
And so we'll talk, kind of go into the cancer thing. So you got pregnant with me. It was a surprise.
Yep.
You had a 1.5-year-old and a 6-month-old.
Right.
And were you sick like when she was pregnant with me? Do you feel like, or did it happen
No, it was like after.
right after?
It was probably 3-4 months after that I really started. It started to come on.
Yeah. So what was the first thing that you felt before you got diagnosed with cancer?
I was having a lot of stomach pain.
Oh, like what?
Like I would eat and stuff, and then it would be like a pressure in my, like in my stomach or against my stomach. I don't know. It's hard to say
Yeah.
because the tumor that was between my stomach and spine was getting bigger.
Yeah.
And when I would eat, it would push up against that and that would cause pain.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like I was really having any other kind of pain. I can't.
You did say, I have back pain. I'm like, everybody has back pain. You don't ever think in your mind, oh my gosh, I have cancer.
Right.
Right.
So there was back pain and then the stomach pain. And that
And
was
then
it. You would never think,
Yeah.
I better go to the doctor.
Right.
Well, the other thing is I was coughing up blood in the morning.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And you saw that.
Because you are colorblind, and red, it's like the red and the green
Yeah.
for you is a little weird.
Right.
So you thought you were coughing up brown
Brown, whatever. Yeah.
mucus.
Yeah.
Just mucus from having kind of like a cold, like how you're like, and then you just kind of spit it out.
Yeah. It was just in the morning. You
Ugh.
And
hack a loogie in the morning. That was about what I
That was like
say.
your normal thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
It got to be, yes.
Okay.
because of that.
Yeah.
And so then
Was
he-
it bright red?
Yeah, I had went in there after
don't think it was bright
he
red.
had
Dad.
been in there. And then I said, Dave, I said, are you okay? And he's like, why? I said, there's blood in the toilet. He goes, oh, I thought it was green. And I'm like,
Oh.
no, that's blood. I think you need to go to the doctor. Because it was a good amount. And I was
So
like,
to you, it was like that's
it was
blood.
bright red. It was blood. Like your fingernail red, it was that red.
Oh, wasn't that right?
And
Oh my
so
Dad doesn't even know.
and
I
so
don't
Mr.
think it was.
Colorblind.
did say you need to go to the hospital. I'm sure it's just a bleeding ulcer. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
And then he never came home. He did go. And
Well,
then they kept him.
we were going to a clinic at the university. And the clinic, it was at the end of the day, and the clinic said,
It's always at the end of the day.
Right?
Or on a freaking Friday that
Exactly.
something happens and you're like, go to the emergency room and you're there for
well, that's what they said, because it was
Yeah.
at the end of the day. They go, well, we can't take x-rays here. So you just go down to the university, because the clinic was, affiliated with the university. Go down there and they'll take pictures and everything, and then you'll go home.
Yeah.
Cool. Did that. Went down there, and then they started listing off all these things, and then they gave me a pregnancy test.
Why?
Because the cancer, this type of cancer gives off beta HCG,
Okay.
which is
The pregnancy hormone?
pregnancy hormone.
And it said positive.
I was positive, yes.
You were positive. Wow.
Yeah.
That is weird. So this was the same night. You found out everything in one night?
Pretty much, yeah.
Wow.
Because they said that the x-rays were peppered with tumors,
Yeah.
All over my lungs, yeah.
lungs,
And liver.
liver, kidneys,
Yep, and then
all over. And so
And you were how old?
27.
And you got diagnosed with what exactly?
Testicular cancer.
What stage?
It was what they considered late stage 3, stage 4, early stage 4.
Of stage 3, stage 4 testicular cancer. So
Yep.
they basically said, okay, your diagnosis is
You're not going home.
you're not going
You're
home.
going to go to the hospital. Call your wife, tell her to come down.
Mm-hmm.
And I call her and I go, honey, you got to come down here. They won't let me out of here.
Did you say I have cancer?
No.
Did you know? But you knew you had cancer. You didn't tell
No,
her?
they said, what did they say?
You have tumors. They never said
Yeah,
the word
yeah, they said
cancer.
tumors.
Okay.
That I have tumors.
Okay.
And I
You have
said
tumors.
that, yeah.
You said
And-
I have tumors.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was 23. I never knew anybody who had cancer or
Mhm.
tumor. So I was like, he said, the doctors want to talk to you. You need to come down. I was like, oh.
Right now?
Yeah.
You're like, what do I do with the
girls.
kids? Yeah.
But
well,
we were,
not only that, you were, wasn't
church?
there a,
we had a Bible study going on that night. So people were coming. And so then I said, I need to go down here. So they said, oh, we'll watch the girls. And then I went down there and it took 3 days for me to figure out that he had cancer because nobody ever said testicular cancer to me.
they said malignant and benign
said,
and
yep.
all that stuff.
They
you know.
said there's tumors and this, they said malignancies and benign, and never did I hear,
They didn't even say testicular cancer.
no.
Weird.
It was so, and I think because it was so late stage, they were flustered. They had to fly the person. They didn't even know what regimen to give him. They ended up flying
The chemotherapy regimen.
Yeah, with the chemo. They ended up flying the guy who writes them from California to the U to work on his case because they never had anybody that stage before.
Hmm. And this was in
So-
like 1987.
Yep,
Correct.
1987.
Okay.
So that was a big deal to have somebody that late stage. And at the end of it, they had said he maybe had 2 weeks left to live. They never said that to us, thank goodness, at the
Not
time.
at the beginning anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
And so it took me 3 days, and I was going up with you girls in the little red wagon, and I'd put your snacks in there and all the
Your blankets and
toys and
pillows.
blankets and
And mind you, I was 6 months old.
6
and
months old.
Danielle was a year and a half.
Mhm.
diaper bag. And I remember going up, and there was a wall on that floor, and there were all these thank you cards, and I'm like reading them. Thank you for being such a great doctor or nurse before my husband or wife passed away. And I'm like, all of them were about before they passed away.
So you were reading the notes and they were
Yeah.
like,
Everybody was dying on that floor. And I thought, so strange. I'm going to go to the nurse's station. And so I took you
23.
girls. Yeah, 23, not knowing nothing about
Yes.
nothing, and didn't even really know what a tumor was, except that he was sick. And And so I go to the nurse's station and I said, what floor is this? And they said, it's the 7th floor. Yes, 7th floor. What happens on the 7th floor? What? They said, this is oncology. And I said, okay.
Tell me what that means.
I still didn't know. I didn't know what oncology was. And they said, this is a cancer ward. And I said, my husband down at the end of the hall, David, has cancer. Nobody had ever said the word cancer to me.
Wow.
And they said, they looked at me very strange, like I was on drugs. I wasn't.
Yeah. I wasn't at that time. I came from rehab. Just kidding.
And so they said, yes, he has testicular cancer. And I was like, what? I marched right down to his room and I walked in the room with my little red wagon. I was like, did you know you have testicular cancer? And he looks at me. He's like, yes. And I was like, I don't even know why I said this, but it did. It just flew out my mouth. And I said, do you think you're going to die from it? And he said, no. And I was like, because I've heard.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
That people know when they are dying.
Yeah.
And so at 23, I was like, do you? And he's like, no. God
And
told me I'm not dying.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, really? You and God had conversation about this too, huh? I was like,
weird. You didn't tell me.
yeah, I was like, I was not part of this conversation.
You forgot about me.
Yeah. And he's like, it's not unto death. I was like, great. And then that was it. I was like, okay, I'm resolved. We're going to fight this son. But I was just so shocked that the doctors and the staff never took me aside. Maybe they did.
It was just a whirlwind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I got thrown in there. Within 10 days, I had a couple surgeries.
Mm-hmm.
I had chemo started and everything.
Yeah. And your surgery was like, is that your stomach one?
No, the surgery was actually just taking surgery on my testicles, surgery on just taking a biopsy of the big mass that was in my back. All kinds of stuff. So there was just
So you had cancer, and it was they where your tumors are basically is where the stage is, right? Like if it's
I have no idea how to figure it.
I'm like I thought that's how it went, like your stage. Like if it's in one area, it's like okay, it's stage 1, but if it's found elsewhere, then it's because it was in your lungs and in your where was it all?
Liver, kidneys, abdomen. And then he had a mass the size of a placenta, they said, in his abdomen.
Yeah, it was between my stomach and spine.
When they took it out, were you like, wow, that feels so good? Like, did you feel like, because like, you know, giving birth to like a baby and a placenta, it's like,
yeah,
you feel like you can breathe again. Did you feel like that or no?
No, not at all. Because they didn't take it out until after I did all the chemo.
Yeah, it was June.
Oh.
They couldn't because it was so large of a mass.
Okay.
That if they opened it up, they said it will just spread. So
got it.
Even worse. Yeah.
Even during that time.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. During that time, we're like, you know, I mean, even our church and friends and everybody, how should we be praying for you? We're like, they said, pray it down to the size of a lime. Then we can do surgery.
Oh.
So we were like, okay, we'll pray it down to the size of a lime.
That was your prayer.
Yeah, that was our prayer.
So what did you both think the moment, like you specifically, how did you feel like the moment they said like, you have cancer? What was your first thought?
Oh crap, this is real.
Yeah.
Because, you know, having that little conversation with God, God saying, oh yeah, you have cancer and you're not going to die from it. What? Yeah, did I really hear that? Am I just, you know, just imagining it? Because I just didn't really think it was really real.
Right. Because you weren't really like, you weren't really into God or anything until like right before, kind of? Or were you
we were into God and everything pretty good, yeah. We went to praise for a while. And this was when we were going to praise assembly. Before that, we were going to Riverside Assembly of God.
It was probably 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he was having pain in the middle of the night. So he had been getting up in the middle of the night for probably a couple weeks. And that's when you had this.
That's when I had this
conversation.
Yes.
And you're like, what is this pain? And you were just... And
so you knew you had cancer before you had cancer? Is that what you're saying? Like
well,
you kind of felt like...
That's what it was told to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so then when they actually said you do have cancer, you're like...
Wow, this is real. So that was a real conversation.
That makes
sense.
So
this really does make sense now. So then I really believed it then.
Yeah.
Because before that it was like, is it indigestion?
Yeah.
Is indigestion or bad pizza telling me I have cancer?
Yeah.
Right. So,
but it also was, it's not unto death.
Yeah. So it wasn't,
correct?
I wasn't going to die from it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because,
but that didn't mean that I didn't have to go through the chemo and everything.
Right.
So that was kind of the unfortunate part, having to go through that.
Mm-hmm. And what was your first thought? Like, were you like...
Well, my first thought was when I went to the nurse's station.
Yeah.
And I was just like mortified because I didn't know anybody who had cancer. And when he said that to me then, I was just so shocked. Like, you had this conversation, okay, and it's not unto death? Great, then let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go then.
Yeah. So when you were diagnosed then you obviously were the main breadwinner of the family. You couldn't work.
Right.
You owned like a company and you couldn't work. So then you started working kind of, because back then when you have this cancer, like now it's like you go to the cancer center and then you can get chemo and you can go home.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I had a friend whose husband had cancer and that's like what he did. But you had to stay.
Well, I had to stay for a week.
A week.
Every time I had a chemo.
Yeah.
Well, because it was like 4 different chemos that they had to give me, 4 or 5 different chemos.
Yeah.
Each day. And then after I was done with that, and I would go home, be sick for a while, get better, and then go back in to get sick all over again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, just to be honest, if it wasn't for Renee, I probably wouldn't have made it in the last few times. Because it was like, no, I don't want to go. Especially that last time. I was just like, this is ridiculous. I'm getting sick. I'm not going to die anyway. Blah, blah, blah. But it was like, no, I had to do it. And I knew it. And she was like, you go.
Yeah.
Finish it.
Yeah.
Finish the race.
Yeah.
But it was like, to be honest, it was, it was promised to me that I would get to grow old with her.
Yeah.
And I was and now I'm turning 65 and that promise is happening.
Yeah.
The other one was get to see my girls get married, to their loves and to have babies and to have that. And it was just so cool. But if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have been able to really make it. And
yeah,
she's been
if it wasn't for Mom, you wouldn't have gone to that last one because basically you're going to get sick. You're getting poison put into your body, and you feel like
that last time was extremely hard to do, and it was.
Well, did you feel like I would just rather die?
No, it's like,
or
I just was like, I know I'm not going to die, so why do I got to do this?
Oh, got it.
Because I was told, and this is, but didn't say I didn't.
It's like you have to have faith in that, but you still have to go through the hard.
Right.
And you're like,
why do I got to do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I have a question, and I find this to be fascinating because I don't know, I'm just fascinated in that kind of stuff. But you, at a young age, played with a Ouija board once.
Like
and
12 or 10 or 12.
12.
Yeah.
And you asked it, you said, did you ask it? Who was it with?
It was with my cousins. It was with my brother.
Who the frick had it?
I think we had it when we were kids. Yeah.
You did? Your mom and
dad?
Mom and
Dad, yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was,
It was like a normal thing.
It was.
Those scare me. Like, I'm scared of those. Terrified.
Well, nobody really thought about it. It was like, ooh, this is cool. Like,
Yeah. So you asked it, when am I going to die?
Yeah.
What age did you say?
27.
And it said 27?
It did. I remember that succinctly.
I would too, because I would be like, I'm 27.
And I didn't really think about it until after the fact.
How old were you when you asked it?
Like 12.
12. Okay. Okay. And 27 is when you got diagnosed with freaking cancer.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's so crazy.
I know.
That's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. So obviously that's when he planned for you to die, but
Yeah,
But God had a different plan.
yeah.
evidently.
Yep.
Thank God.
Yeah. What do you feel like was the hardest part for you? I mean, it sounded like obviously that last chemo for you.
Yeah, it was that. But then, then there were some people that would just come in and say, "Oh, I prayed and you're healed and you don't need to do this. You can leave." And I'm like, I don't think so.
No.
And there was a couple of people that would do that.
Yeah.
So it was really hard because there were people that were just.
And everybody obviously wants the best for you and is thinking, that's just man and people's thoughts and interpretations.
I think they think it's helpful.
Right.
But like, Jason, I shared this in one of the other podcasts. I think maybe it was with you, but like when Nevaeh had her stroke, I remember him saying, "Don't tell me that. It's not helpful."
That's not
And he was like, "You're right. I just want to say that because I feel like it'll make you feel better."
Right.
But when you are going through something really hard, it is not helpful.
Right.
Because you're like,
Right.
don't.
Yep.
You don't know.
Right.
So.
And, especially, and you had some other really hard times when you were in quarantine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really hard time. Like nobody could go in there it was like a month.
It was a month.
So you were quarantined. I just
Because
picture
I had
this.
a bad reaction to a chemo.
Okay. What was your reaction?
All my white blood counts went to 0.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. So that means you just could get sick at anything.
Right.
Holy cow.
Like
How did you feel? Did you feel weak? Like,
Not really, no. I don't know. The whole time I felt kind of weak. So
yeah.
at the time, it was all the same to me.
So it wasn't any different when you had 0 white,
No.
like you weren't like
He looked terrible, and he was
like white,
weaker.
I would?
Yeah,
Yeah.
grayish white. It was bad.
Scary.
Yeah.
So how I picture it is like when you're locked in a psych ward and they just give you food through a little door, and then you like, and this was in 1987 or 1980, whenever. And so
88, yeah.
you're not like, you can't text, you can't FaceTime.
No,
Well, there wasn't any of that at that time.
right.
You're right. So what did you do? Did you read? Did you?
I read and I also watched TV.
Yeah.
But after a while, it's like you only can do so much.
Oh my gosh. How
You got days of just being in a room this size with a bed and a toilet. And
And the nurses had to garb up before they came in there.
yeah,
because they could get you sick too, right?
anybody could come in and I could catch a cold and die.
Did you feel like you were going crazy in there?
Towards the end of the month, I was like, ugh.
I couldn't even do 3 days. There's no way.
Right.
Like, I mean, I guess if I have to, I have to, but
Yeah.
I couldn't come. Nobody
Yeah,
went in that
your
rush.
kids couldn't come or anything.
yeah. I don't remember.
Especially the kids. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, yeah. What was the hardest part for you? Like, obviously, he's going through it. You're on the other side, taking care of everything.
Yeah, probably just the unknown, just walking through it and not knowing, but still wanting faith, having faith to, pray and believe that it's not unto death, but still you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously I was kept busy with you girls, and that kept me busy. But then when everybody was asleep, it was like,
Your brain.
yeah, it was like, it would just race. And it's like, what happens if he does die? And what am I going to do? And, just normal thoughts of, I'll have 2 babies. And this isn't how the story was supposed to go.
And you
Right.
guys were married for 4 years before this all happened.
Yep.
So very newly married.
Newly
For the most
married.
part.
I just kept thinking, this is not how the story is supposed to go. This is not how it's supposed to go. And obviously, I mean, we had so many people across the world praying and
Yeah.
and standing with us and all that. But still, when it comes down to those moments of just you and God of, okay, I trust you, even in this hard time of not knowing. That's what faith is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what faith exactly is you don't know, but you're believing for an outcome, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and we had support and help with you girls. And it was just like a whirlwind. I look back on it and it's
can I ask, like, how was your family's dealing with it? I don't remember. I mean, I think I don't
know why you don't. You were 6 months old.
I know. I remember the hospital and specific, like, going for checkups and stuff, but like years later. But like, as far as, because like if Ethan had cancer, I know that you guys would be there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Every day.
Yeah.
Like, how did your families show up or not show up?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your families were in Wisconsin.
So there was, I don't remember. I'm sure that I talked to them. I don't recall that.
Mm-hmm.
And your
they
brother.
never came, did they?
My family, no.
No. Yeah.
No. And I think, like, Tim came up.
Tim came up quite a bit, yeah. And sometimes he would just be there,
Yeah.
which was great, just being there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And not saying things, but just being there, which is fine, which is better than nothing,
Yeah.
which is probably the best thing. Sometimes you just don't want to hear talking,
Right. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so,
were your parents there, like your mom and dad?
They came up one time at the beginning.
Yeah. And then they moved to Florida during that time, I think.
Oh, okay.
Right. They did,
So, they were in the process of moving to Florida. So it was pretty much,
You two.
us two dealing with it. And we had friends that, we were friends with, but like Deb and Steve Sabis that.
You weren't friends with them at the beginning.
Yeah, she was the church secretary. And I remember calling and wanting to talk to the pastor just to say, hey, can you guys be praying? And she said, I didn't really know. I knew of her, but we weren't close at the time. And she was like, oh, what can I, tell him? And I told her, she's like, do you want me to come over right now? And I was like, oh, yeah. I was so
sure.
like, I kind of know you. Yeah, that would be great. And then we were inseparable.
Yeah. And you're still friends to this day?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so weird because
I
remember her coming up after like 3 or 4 times. I finally go, who are you? Because I had no idea who
that
she
sounds
was.
like something you'd say. Who are you, actually?
Who are you? And so the doctors would be like,
Who's
which
who
ones? Here? And yep, I'm the wife. And, and
I'm just like, after 3 or 4 times, I finally go, who are you? I had no idea who she was.
Yeah.
And she was always with Renee.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like.
So grateful that she did do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're so grateful. And there were times she'd be like, do you think we should feed the girls lunch? I was like, yeah, that's a good idea. Because I'd be busy doing stuff and everything was on me then.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, the bills, the business, the taking care of you, then the medical, and, she'd just intervene and I'd be like, oh, that's a great idea. Yes.
Yeah. So when you were not doing chemo and you weren't working, you just took over and you're like, I need to make money. So, right?
And I was a PCA. I had done that part-time back then. And that was just off and on. And then when I realized he was not going to be able to go back to work, I just prayed. I was like, we have no money. I'm 23. Who has a savings account at 23?
Right.
And
so you said, I'm good at house cleaning.
I'm good at house cleaning. And it was just like, as I was praying, it was just like the Lord said, make a flyer, pass them out. I passed them out and I ended up with 30 clients within this building. And I just was so thankful. And that brought us through. I ended up keeping, doing that cleaning for probably 20 years.
20 years, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember going. It's so funny because like Ethan and I were taking pictures down there and we crossed the bridge and I was like, River Place has got to be around here. I feel like we're going to River Place.
Funny.
And all of a sudden like, bing, River Place. I was like, that is the place that my mom cleaned
forever.
It's like I have literal memories with your your cart.
Yep.
And helping. And like, it's different because like my view is obviously different than your guys' view of like that time. And it was like a fun thing for me. Like watching Elvis or I Love Lucy with Danielle. And sometimes we'd help you clean. Sometimes we wouldn't, but.
Yep. And then I'd take you swimming.
Yes.
I told Ethan. Huge pool.
Yeah. Remember the steam room that they had? I was like, we should take the kids. He's like, you can't go swimming. Yep. You have to live there. I'm like, yeah, I know. You're right. Danielle would love it too, I think. Yeah. To just go there.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you been down there lately though? It's like so cute.
Oh yeah. They've renovated and
there's like a
stores and little restaurants.
Oh, there was a great restaurant. What was that one restaurant?
Oh my gosh, I saw it. I literally was like, we ate there. Frickin' I don't know.
I can't remember what it is. They had great popovers. Wasn't that it, place?
I can't even remember the name, and I'm usually really good at that.
You're always good at that.
But during that time too, I just wanted to keep it normal.
Yeah.
For you guys and still have fun and still be, keeping you guys doing stuff and being part as far as like with the cleaning. And that's where Annette came into the picture too and babysat a couple times a week for me so that I could really nail down and get like 6 apartments done in a day. And so, even in the summers you went to Annette's.
Yeah. Even till high school.
Yep. We just built that community. I mean, I think the biggest thing with any type of traumatic situation like that is we built community before it happened.
Yeah.
And so I always said, I don't know what I would have done without our community.
Yeah.
But we had that community built before. It's not like when you are in the middle of it, like had we not built community and not had those friendships, I can't say that we would be here today because that, we leaned on those people.
Yeah.
And we leaned on.
It's like Dad leaned on you and you leaned on everyone else leaning on like helping you guys.
Yep.
It's like you can't get through something without like, it's like even when Nevaeh went through her stuff, it's like I leaned on Ethan and Ethan leaned on me, but then we leaned on you guys and Rachel and like all of our friends because it's like they hold you up.
Correct.
Yeah.
Friends, family, whatever. Because it's like when you feel like you can't be strong, then you're like, I can't do this. And Debbie's like, we got it.
Yep.
Or, Dad looks at you and you're like, nope, we got it.
Yep.
It's like somebody's just the one person that's strong for you. But even, I just feel like having one person too, you like, even if you did, I know you guys are tough. Like you would go through it alone. And I think you could, but it is just, it's hard to do it.
Yep.
Without other people and like
hard to
help.
Be positive with.
Yeah.
Otherwise it gets to be too much and overpowering and
it's like really like a mind game that you're trying to get through.
Thankful and grateful for that community, and they would come up and they would bring food and they would,
Didn't you have like a party? You guys had like, I remember pictures of like balloons.
There were
and
always, every time he was in the hospital, there was a balloon that they brought up with, it had hands and feet. His name was Wally.
Oh my gosh, I have it in my baby book or something.
Yeah, and that community, they were always bringing up balloons and pizza, and there was always activity in our room, and all the other people in the hospital would come down. They wanted to be down by us because we were so loud. And then the pastor
would get in there, Tom, Eli, and play the piano and everything, and sing songs.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And the nurses were always like, everybody wants to be down here at your side because there was always activity. And I remember one person who was a friend of ours that was a nurse was like, Dave needs his sleep. And Dave said, I have eternity to rest. If I need my sleep, I'll go to sleep.
Yeah.
Because she was like, you shouldn't have all these people up here.
Yeah, didn't want that.
It was like, he needs his rest. And he loved it. He loved hearing all the people, the laughter. I think that helped.
Definitely did. Like the night before I started chemo, that was when we had that big pizza party.
Yeah.
because they're going, you're never going to taste food the same afterward.
Oh.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
And so I had pizza, I had Devani's. It was like I could eat anything.
Yeah. You're like, I'm going to taste it all.
Yep.
And you had
And
a
then
big
after
party?
that, I couldn't taste anything right anymore. Took a long time to get it back.
Is it back now?
Oh, yeah.
You feel like? Yeah. Okay.
It came back last year.
Yeah.
Uh,
So how do you feel like if you were a friend, like you have a friend going through this, like I don't think you know how to show up as a friend until you go through something like that. You're like, I wish I had
right.
whatever. Not that you have to go through it, but if somebody's listening and they're like, I have a friend whose husband is going through cancer, how can I show up for my friend?
Mm-hmm.
And I would love you to answer that as somebody who's going through cancer.
Just go there and be there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just being there is really all that matters.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have to say a whole lot. You don't have to do a whole lot. Just being there and just being present
Mm-hmm.
is amazing. You
Yeah.
know, because you go to sleep and then if that person's there and you wake up to them and it's like, oh, good, somebody's there.
Yeah.
It feels great. You know, Renee couldn't always do that, but
Right.
there were some people that would do that, and that was awesome
Mm-hmm.
because it felt so good.
Yeah.
And I remember Patty Cachel.
Oh my
one time,
gosh. I haven't heard that.
coming up.
Yeah.
And I think you were sleeping. I think it was after one of the surgeries. And then I did end up coming up and
I don't remember.
She's finding the strength.
I'm like, okay.
I'm like, I don't remember what
walking in, and she was with lotion.
Oh.
Oh,
She rubbed your feet or she was just putting
Yeah,
lotion on you?
rubbing his feet. And
I honestly don't remember that. I don't know. So many people did so many things. It's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Oh.
think, waking up and like what he said, just showing up because you don't know how to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't know what you need, you know?
Right.
So,
I think like when you are in a spot of like you literally your world got flipped and
totally
people
flipped.
say, what can I do? You're like,
Yep.
I don't even know what to do.
Right.
I don't know. You tell me what to do.
Right.
Like, because you don't know what you want or what you need.
No.
But all you actually need is somebody to just say,
Yep.
That's
That's
it.
it.
You don't even have to say.
Right.
Honestly, sometimes it's better if you just don't.
Right.
Because it's like
the
being,
words are
yeah.
like, it's going to be okay. No, you don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
No, I didn't need to hear that.
Right.
It was just being there and saying hi.
Yeah.
You know?
Mhm.
Keeping you busy
Mm-hmm.
and being like, let's play games. Let's
Right.
whatever.
Just showing
Card
up,
games. Yeah.
Playing a card game or just showing up, just popping in, bringing some muffins,
Mhm.
popping back out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I try to do. And I learned that,
Yeah.
you know, because I was like, oh, or just showing up and being available.
Mm-hmm.
What
Yeah.
I'm bringing over a dish,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, you know, obviously nowadays there's so many more
Yes.
allergies.
Yeah.
But you can find that out and
Mhm.
say, I'm bringing that over on
Tuesday.
Yep.
Yeah.
and show up.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember,
Well, like for you, a lot of people were just bringing food for you. all the
right,
time.
right. Yep. And they'd come and clean my house. And,
Yeah.
you know, so stuff like that.
And
But I remember back then also that the doctors were like, because of the chemo and how strong it was, they said in your 50s and 60s, your body would start breaking down and, you
that was
know,
before that.
yeah. But they said like 50s, 60s, the issue with those drugs, because they were so toxic, is that later in life,
Yeah.
you'll have issues.
I'm-
And we have experienced that. But when you're 27,
Mm-hmm.
you don't care.
Mm-mm.
You know, his big thing was, I want to see my girls get married. I want to have grandkids. I don't care about that. when you're 27, but now being 65 and having had gone through
Not yet. I'm just not yet 60.
almost 65.
Mother.
A month from now.
Yep, in a whole
Not
month.
yet.
Yes, and that your body would be breaking down,
Yeah.
and
Hence the new knees and the new
shoulders, knees,
Yeah,
and the back
back.
problems.
Yeah.
And
But you
just
do it all
of
over
that.
again.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But if you got diagnosed with cancer today,
I'd be like, see ya.
yeah.
I don't want to go through it again.
Yeah.
I mean, but they say, the chemo isn't as bad as it used to be. And
Yeah.
the drugs are better and what keep you from being sick so much.
Yeah.
And I think you would go in probably quicker too.
yeah.
I
mean, so would you. Like,
absolutely.
I mean, I say my back hurts and I'm like, I might have cancer. And Rachel's like, are you? I'm like, that's what happened to my dad.
Yep.
I don't, you just like, that's literally what I think. Like,
Yes.
she's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I know.
Nope.
I know. But it can happen.
Yes.
But that's like when things happen like that, like you wouldn't think at 27 you're getting cancer or you have a kid who has a stroke at 10. Like you don't automatically think the very worst thing.
No.
Like I remember being like, great, Nevaeh didn't have a stroke. Like, of course she didn't. She was
Right.
10.
Yeah.
But so now I'm like, anything can happen. Just
Right.
go to the doctor.
Yes. Go to the
Get it
doctor.
looked at.
And
Let's get it looked at.
Yeah.
Could be just a wart.
Right. Wait, I hope not. But okay, so we talked about what was helpful. What was not helpful to you, do you feel like, at that time?
Probably what was not helpful was, it wasn't helpful that his business partner filed bankruptcy.
We
That
didn't
was
talk
not-
about that.
That
yeah.
was not helpful.
During cancer.
Yeah, during cancer.
You had to deal with
which
that too.
Had to deal with that.
Had to deal with that. And then afterwards had to
And-
deal with it even more.
Yeah.
Yes. So
Um,
he filed for bankruptcy and then you guys had to end up paying.
We ended up choosing to pay just to be
Instead of filing for
instead
bankruptcy.
of us filing bankruptcy. So there was a lot going. All your main things, which are your health, finances,
Yeah.
having little kids. So,
But what I would have to say is
I can't.
that, we had the house paid. I mean, every month, we always had the mortgage paid.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We always had food and everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it was totally taken care of. And it definitely was a God thing because I wasn't bringing any money in. And right at the
Mhm.
beginning, Renee wasn't bringing money in.
Yeah.
Everything was being taken care of.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
totally a God thing. It was all taken care of. I
Mhm.
mean, really.
Yeah.
But you still felt like the stress of.
Of course, you still have the stress of what happens if,
Right.
which
Right.
I would say one thing that I think was helpful is to just kind of talk through it with your community. Like I did with Debbie. Like, Debbie, what happens if he does die?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just walk through this scenario?
Mm-hmm.
Can we just walk through it and say it out loud? And that helped.
Mm-hmm.
What would have not helped is that's not faith,
Mm-hmm.
or just keep your chin up,
Mm-hmm.
or good vibes.
Yeah.
That would not be helpful.
Yeah.
But it was helpful just for me to, that's not a lack of faith, to just walk it through and the what if. Sometimes people need to just verbalize it and talk it through.
Yeah.
Like, okay, let's say he does pass away. I'm a single mom with two girls, and God will take care of me and we'll figure it out. Just to actually say those words and allow that person that space
Mm-hmm.
to verbalize
Yeah.
that. I think that is helpful. And to have people around to just be like, good luck.
Yeah.
That's not helpful.
Yeah.
Or
Let me know if you need anything.
yeah, let me know if
Right.
you need
You're like,
anything.
I will not.
Yeah, I will not, because
I will not.
I will not talk to you.
Yep.
yeah, I can't.
I will not.
I cannot even focus on anything. So,
Do you, because you are a lot like me, I feel like I need to verbalize it.
yep.
You're not necessarily like did you feel like you needed to verbalize if I die, or you just literally didn't think that, so you never.
That didn't even come into my brain.
Mm. Okay.
I knew I was going to be alive.
Yeah. So you didn't have to verbalize it like
Nope.
Mom did.
I just told her, I go, I'm not Not going anywhere.
Yeah. See, I feel like I would have to be like that, where I'm like, just let me talk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying anything. None of this is going to happen, but I
Right.
just need to think about it,
Process.
talk about it, process.
Processing is part of when you're in traumatic situations. Just processing, talking
Mm-hmm.
things through, and obviously, you had a promise.
Yeah.
You had a conversation that I didn't, and so
Yeah.
I'm trusting that, and I'm believing with you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just nice to have that space to walk it through with other people.
Right.
For sure.
I think one of the biggest takeaways from a lot of this already is just letting people talk and hearing them
Mhm.
without having an answer.
Right.
And I think it's just like an innate human thing to be like, "It's going to be okay. You're going to be fine."
Right.
But you just need somebody to just don't tell me that. Just listen to me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like
Right.
that's why therapy is so good, because they just let you talk and they're not like, "You're crazy. You can't think like that.
Right.
Don't go there." I'm like, sometimes I have to. I just need to think about it.
Yeah.
Like,
That's healthy.
it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. So how long was your whole cancer, from the beginning when you were diagnosed to when they were like, this is actually working and you're actually, we said 2 months, but you're actually going to
Mhm.
live?
Because it was December of 87.
Yep.
And then he had his final surgery because it did get down to the size of a lime.
was it
And that
Memorial
was
weekend?
June
Yeah.
of 88.
Yep.
Okay, so a year and a half?
No.
No, less than
Like
a year.
6 months.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
6-7 months. Yeah.
Yeah. Intense.
But it was like,
It was like the most intense
Wow.
6 months of our life.
Yes.
And then they had said it would probably be about anywhere from 9 to 12 hour surgery.
right.
And I remember saying to Debbie, if it's under, I think it was like 10 hours or 9 hours, I'll do a cartwheel down that hallway. And they came out and it was under, and I did cartwheels all the way down the hallway.
Yeah.
And then the day it was it was a turtle party thing
Turtle
at the
racing day.
turtle racing day at
Oh.
the university that day. So there were all these people and it was a big party. And I said, it's really for Dave.
Yeah. Yeah. Weird.
I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
I
didn't
had
even
that
invite me.
Yes,
little
the-
T-shirt that had the little turtles on, and you both had a
And now we have turtle
T-shirt.
racing up in our cabin.
Oh, that's right.
Look at that. What a weird coincidence.
That's-
So after that surgery, they were like, you're cancer free, or did you kind of have to?
No, I had to go back. Let's see. It started every month for a while, for
Yeah.
6
Check
months.
his markers.
Check my markers every month for 6 months. And then I went to 3 months for a year. Then I went to 6 months for a couple of years. And then I went to once a year.
Yeah.
And then,
And then 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I have never had to do it again for a long time now.
yeah.
So what
Yeah.
did they say? Like, when were you like, I'm cancer free, like this specific day were you like,
I
were
don't
they
know.
like,
They
you
never-
guys?
They never
this
really
is-
said no.
Oh, like we thought you were going to die. Did they say that?
I think it was
Well, when did they
during
say
that surgery at the end, they had said behind the scenes when you had come in, they gave him a 5% chance of making it. They said he was knocking on death's door.
Wow.
He maybe would have made it another 2 weeks if he had not gone into the hospital.
Wow.
Another 2 weeks. I was like, I'm glad you told us that now
Yeah.
and not at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it was traumatizing enough.
Yeah.
And then to hear that, I mean, you would just be full of fear, which you're fighting. I probably was fighting fear a little bit more. Like, oh my gosh,
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah.
this is not the way the story should go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I was just fighting chemo,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
trying not to be sick and everything. So
Do you remember us coming? Like,
down there?
yeah.
Oh, yeah. You would ride on the stand that I had, because
Oh,
You called
The
it your
IV?
dancing partner. Dad called it his dancing partner.
yeah.
they had all the
Connected to it. Yeah.
yeah.
The IV
Oh,
thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
had an IV connected to me the whole time while I was there.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. There's pictures. I feel like we should post some pictures because you were there's some pictures of you that I'm like, oh my gosh, you're so skinny.
Yes. So
I got
skinny.
down to 145 pounds, was it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Afterwards, yeah.
Wow. And you're like 6 foot?
Yeah, 5'11", yeah.
5'11".
Yeah, close enough.
On a good day. With his back surgery, he's getting down to like 5'10".
You're right.
No, I'm still 5'.
You're growing?
Yeah.
They're adding spine.
There you go.
There you go.
Vertebrae in there.
Yeah. I mean, if it wasn't for Mom, we wouldn't be able to make a lot of things, honestly.
But I mean, with her, she was the backbone. She made it happen. She took care of you girls. I didn't have anything to do with that.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't. But she was there, and through it all, she,
Yeah.
you made it, and thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thank you guys. It's an inspiration, and I think that's what's really cool about this podcast is like so many people know you guys, but they don't know these stories and like why you guys are the way you are. Like that's why I feel like these are so important because everybody has a story, and it's like I love to just share like, okay, this is how you guys went through it. How did you get through it? Mm-hmm. And like you're just I mean, I don't think Mom would have been able to get through it if you were like, I think I'm going to die. She would have been a panicked mess if you But you really did like believe that. So she believed it. And it became like your your backbone.
Yeah, and that is a good point because that was a backbone because I didn't even think twice. He was just like,
nope, I'm not going to die.
Oh, okay. And it was just like,
yeah,
that was that.
Yeah.
It was like, boom. And
she wasn't like, oh, so you had a conversation with God and you didn't talk to me about it?
Yeah. She could have. I'm sure she did.
She didn't. But she just said, oh, okay. And went with it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, we're fighting it. And then you guys dug and clawed and you had to pay off debt that wasn't even your debt after that with the business and then hospital bills and working and having kids a year and 6 months and
I think that's
hard.
Yeah, it's hard, and I think it's one of those things where when people, look at you and Ethan or Dad and I or other people, and we prejudge.
Yeah.
People like, oh, they
didn't have any troubles or
and
they're perfect.
Yeah, they grew up in this. No, I grew up poor. I grew up. There were times where I was homeless. I mean, people don't know those parts of the story.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when they prejudge, I mean, we're coming up on 42 years of marriage.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just happen.
No.
You work at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a garden. You have to weed and pull weeds, and you have to tend to the soil. You have to tend to one another and water. And there's just so many different dynamics that go into relationships, like
Mm-hmm.
And when people judge it and judge you or like, oh, they have it all together. No, they haven't seen or they don't know the behind the scenes stories that have created and that we built foundations on.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I think, a key point and I appreciate you doing these stories because, everybody, like you said, has a story, and it's inspirational to hear how they made it through.
Mm-hmm.
And it just doesn't happen.
No, it does not.
No.
And it's hard work.
It's hard work.
Like you said, you water it, but it's like those little things that you're slowly building. Mm-hmm. And that's why you guys are as strong as you are now.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you never gave up.
Right.
And you were like, nope. Even when you broke up, you're like, no, I think we're supposed to be together. I think we're getting married. Like,
yep.
Right.
Nobody would, there's a lot of backstory behind that and working. And, you guys are a huge inspiration to Ethan and I. And you guys are great parents.
Thank you.
People.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, we know. We know. I think Nevaeh has a lot of this, like, and I do too. I feel like your personality of being like, when she'll just, it's just brain surgery. You just go to bed and you wake up and it's over. And I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah.
She's like, I didn't think I was going to die. Like,
Yeah.
so certain. Like, that's exactly how she is. Like, she just was like,
Yep.
Yeah.
I just go to sleep and I wake up, it's over.
Yes. Yep.
I'm like, for her saying that, like, I think it's the same kind of equivalent as dad saying to you, like,
Right.
I mean, obviously very different, but you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it made me feel like, you're right. You're right. You are just going to sleep and you're waking up and it's over.
Right.
And then it's after that, you know?
Yep.
Right.
The caring and
Yep.
the whatnot. So,
Where we depend on one another's strength
yeah.
is what you're saying.
In the weirdest points, you're like, that's all I need to do. Okay.
Right.
Okay. That's what I needed to hear.
Yep.
So, well, thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah.
I think this
thank
is
you.
going to be
Thanks
great
for
with all the
having
little
us.
clips in between.
All the little
You know.
hiccups in between.
But yeah, thank you guys for coming. And
Yes.
we will be on, they'll be on again. We don't know when,
Okay.
but we have all
Love
the
it.
questions, all the
Yep.
things. And
All the good stuff. Thanks for having us. We love you guys.
we love you.
No, we
And
love you more.
Poppy.
And
She
Poppy's
did
still
so good.
here. Yes, being
She wasn't chewing her bone.
You were not chewing. You didn't even sit on our lap. Okay, we'll see you later, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.